Good morning, Ray. Good morning, everyone
Yeah,
out there listening to us wherever you may be.
yeah,
So happy you're on the Thrive Live with us again this morning
yeah.
on
Good morning,
this
Jason. Yeah, we're
fifth
happy to
day
be
of
here.
April.
Yeah, the year is zooming by. 3 months down, and 9 more to go. So hopefully people are getting stuff done.
We were just in January. It just seemed like it was.
Yeah.
It just actually seemed like Christmas. I feel like I just put up my Christmas tree.
Well, it's funny here in Denver because of the snow. I still have lights on my front porch. So at some point they're going to come down. But when there's snow up there, tough to get up there in the snow. But
Well, that's nice that your HOA doesn't give you a love note. Our HOA would have given us a love note now by having those
yeah,
lights
exactly.
still up.
No love note as of yet. So which is good. Which is good.
So when we talked earlier in the week about our show and did our show prep, and we discussed what do we want to talk about, one of the things that I think we felt was really strong was the whole notion of how things are reverting back to some extent or the way they were in terms of past management practices, and maybe some of the disingenuous comments that have been made from employers where they've said we're going to do something one way and then they've changed and they're doing it, they're going back to the old way. And our conversation was going to be focused around what are some of those things that they're doing differently, and the fact that when you make comments one way and then you change fairly significantly and fairly quickly what you're doing, especially as it relates to what's going on with employees, it really breaks down employee engagement. So all that work that you did trying to drive employee engagement and getting people excited and feeling like it's a culture that they wanted to be in and a workplace that they wanted to be at, now you've pretty much broken down the trust that you have with the employee and essentially really impacted employee engagement negatively. So I think that was the crux of our conversation. One of the first things we were going to kick off talking about is, Google for many years talked about, oh my gosh, employees don't like the performance review. We're going to do less with the performance review. It's more conversation based. It's less, rating based. And we're getting away from the performance review. But now we see that Google is going all in on the performance review, and I know you have some information.
Yeah.
Why don't you share with us a
Yeah,
little bit
I
about
mean,
that?
I've got a buddy of mine who, is at Google and on the HR team, and
John
basically,
Doe is his
yeah,
name.
no, exactly. And we talk, once a month just to kind of see how things are going. And one of the things that he mentioned was that, you know, that Google had brought in, some new HR leaders into the organization, and those leaders come from a mentality of uh, kind of ranking and stacking,
Forced ranking and stack ranking.
forced ranking, staking, and also, once you do performance reviews, you're trying to identify the top 10, and at the same time identify the bottom 10 and manage out the bottom performers. So, so this is happening, at one of the top tech companies. And I think that's going to be a real challenge for them to retain talent, and continue to be a leader. As far as employee engagement, employee commitment, to building their products and growing their business. So I think it's going to be a real challenge for a lot of organizations right now because of some of those changes.
So basically, we've said for, I think we started talking about this at the beginning. So
Yeah.
basically, we said everything that we talked about for the last 5 years about performance reviews and making it a whole different process and making it a better process, a less intrusive process, and a more employee friendly process. We're now changing that. And I posted something on my LinkedIn earlier this week, and it said that one of the management or one of the VPs, senior VPs at Google, who wasn't quoted in the article, said that Google now has a desire to make employees scared so that they work harder, which is why they're making a harder performance review process. So it's really very strange to me how you just completely like. I get that they want to force people out and not do a layoff. Like I get that that's your ultimate goal, but is
Yeah.
it just better to lay the people off and say we have to lay people off? Or I know Google's probably a hard pill to swallow that you didn't meet your numbers, but isn't that better than changing essentially everything you said about the performance review? How does that help employee engagement? How does that get employees to believe anything that you're ever going to say again? I mean, it just seems really very, very odd to me.
Yeah, and and you and I both worked, in the Bay Area, and and a lot of the organizations that we've worked for, I mean, have this kind of, uh, you know, just a really strong collaboration culture, very strong teamwork, you know, not political, trying to keep politics out of the mix. And I think a lot of organizations, what's happening is all of this stuff is starting to come back in, uh, and it's not really a focus on kind of delivering great products to the customer, and having the employees have a great experience, and having them grow in the company. It's really more about you know managing to a budget, or managing to a number, headcount number, which is just going to cause all kinds of problems, and which is not positive.
I would say, having worked in a forced ranking environment several different times,
Uh-huh.
that forced ranking is the worst environment that you could work in. And I'm sorry to say that, but that's my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's just an opinion.
Yeah.
Everybody has opinions, just like everybody has armpits. So I realize mine's not very
Yeah.
valuable.
Yeah.
But what you said is very true. When you have a forced ranking environment, first of all, it just really pits employee against employee,
Yeah.
where people are, I would say, quite clearly, they stab each other in the back to get ahead, because there's always somebody at the top and there's always somebody at the bottom, and everybody fills in the middle, and everybody wants to be clamoring to get ahead. So that is what happens. People stab each other in the back to their managers. And then the other thing is that managers hate it, and then managers never tell the story the way the company wants it told. Like, oh, we have a distribution curve, and we looked at the relative ranking, and we
Yeah.
believe that you were the first person, or you're the second person, or we believe your contribution is not as
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
based upon other blah blah blah. What they usually say is, yeah, we had a first ranking, and the company made me do it, and I don't think you belong there. And
Yeah.
so that just
Yeah.
totally disintegrates trust with the employee and the company, with the manager, and everything else. And I think that it just bottoms out employee engagement. Okay,
Yep.
so let's go to another one.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
now Salesforce, Google, Meta, they're all saying, excuse me, get back in the office.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. I think we're starting to see more and more organizations, uh, to a certain degree, force employees back into their offices. At least 2 to 3 times a week, at a minimum. Uh, and it's interesting because I spoke with a buddy of mine again in the Bay Area in tech, and said, "So, are you back in the office?" He goes, "Well,
Jimmy Doe.
yeah, exactly, exactly. At a Salesforce like company, uh, and his comment was, "Yeah, we're supposed to be back in the office. That's the kind of the message that we've given to all employees. But me and my manager cut a deal, and I don't have to come in maybe once a week,
Yeah, that's what
not the
always
3 days."
happens.
And so even though the majority of employees are, being forced to commute an hour to downtown San Francisco, or longer, and then to be in the office, and it's a freaking zoo down in downtown San Francisco where the offices are, uh, and so they got to get into the office, but then you got all these folks that if they know the right manager, they have the right connections, they basically can, cannot abide by the guidelines. And I think that's the other challenge you've got, is just you've got people that are everywhere, with cutting deals, and that's not necessarily the best thing to do from a culture and employee engagement perspective.
Yeah, I mean that's right. That drops employee engagement because
Yeah,
everybody's got their own special deal cut. And then if
exactly.
you're one of those people who's maybe a really great employer, great employee, and you have a manager that's a real stickler for the rules, you're like, hey man, everybody else is getting a deal cut except for me.
Yeah,
Why is that? That's not fair.
yeah,
I don't want to be here. And then Salesforce, and I don't want to call out Salesforce, but I will a little bit, because didn't they say, hey, we don't care if the Salesforce tower is empty, we're embracing remote work, blah, 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 blah. And now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you know what? No.
yeah,
And, once again, you're breaking down that trust, you're breaking down that employee engagement that you work so hard to build up. And, I just said this to my teenage daughter this morning. I said, words matter. So, I mean, they do, saying something that you believe and you stand for, and then completely changing it. And not only just words, but it's a policy that you put in, and then you're scrapping it, a few months later. It's,
yeah.
it's crazy.
It is, and in our discussions, with different CEOs wanting to bring employees back into the office, what we basically recommended, and in our guidance was, look, I mean, free food and free booze is not going to be enticing for employees to come back into the office. What you really need to do, and it's funny because I just read a Gartner survey, and the things that we were talking about to the CEO are exactly what employees are saying. So, what Gartner's saying is the top 5 reasons employees want to go to the office: to build relationships, with their peers, collaborate on projects, change up my routine, be visible to a leader and have time with their leader, and to learn from others. So it's all about the reasons we like being in an office is to do these kinds of things collaboratively. It's not force me into the office so I can just jump into a phone booth and do Zoom calls with other people.
Those are very
You know,
conscientious people that answer that survey. I'm very proud of them. Those
yeah,
are very like mature answers. I'm not sure I would have
yeah,
answered it as
yeah.
maturely.
And it's funny because you and I work remote all the time. The number 3, changing up my routine. I'm looking forward to tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm meeting somebody for coffee at the Stanley Coffee House here. And have coffee and chit chat and actually see people. Mingling. So it is kind of nice to do things and change things up. But really, like you said, it's got to be for the right reasons to get people to come into the office. It's not, you got to be here 24, 3 days, 8 hours a day.
Well, I think those answers are all good, and
Yeah,
and I think that if an employer led with, "Hey, we want you to be in the office because of these things," and I think they do, but I think when they say, "Hey, we want you to be in the office for these reasons, and now we want you back in 4 or 5 days a week,"
yeah,
and we're totally basically saying everything that we said before was a bunch of bunk. You're like, oh, great, yeah. When
yeah,
do I ever believe anything you ever say again? And
yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
it's very dangerous to do that, when you just
yeah,
completely obliterate and statements that you made. Now I realize things have changed rapidly, but the reality of it is that we can still function.
yeah,
We can function in a hybrid
these-
work environment. Okay, so the other
yeah,
one that I saw, which was really troubling to me, and just how things change, and how people are breaking down employee engagement. So Apple stores. Now this comment in what I read is exclusive to Apple stores. So
uh,
here are these poor people that worked in the Apple stores that went through the pandemic, that got furloughed or got brought back, and were basically really up and down when the Apple stores were closed and going through the pandemic. And Apple stores are the high end of the high end in terms of the kind of service that you get.
yeah,
So Tim Cook just came out and Apple came out and said every employee in the Apple stores needs to reapply and re-interview for their job. Now, how does that make you feel better about your job at Apple when you go through all that I've been through? Now you guys are going to make me reapply for my job. How does that build? How does that build employee engagement?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's the some of the best service that I've ever gotten has been at an Apple store. And I've even taken my granddaughters, uh, for training on their new iPads, and the people there are fantastic. And uh, you know, I mean, doing something like that just erodes that confidence and that wanting to do the extra effort. And that's really kind of what employee engagement is all about. Engaged employees give you that extra 10, 20%, either in service level, or in productivity, that you cannot it is worth so much money to you as an employer from a profitability perspective, and just from a customer satisfaction, that doing something like that to those folks, especially when you consider the lowest paid at Apple are the people in the Apple stores. Uh, you know, not talking about the kids that are making the phones in China, but employees of Apple. And to do that to your frontline employees is just kind of a slap in the face, to folks that have really dedicated themselves to do that kind of work.
Yeah, and I'm a huge Apple devotee. I'm
Yep.
doing all of my work and recording this on my, my Mac, and I have my iPhones and my iPads and all
Yep.
of those things. So, I'm a huge Mac disciple. I always have. That was my first computer as a kid. But it really makes you feel kind of icky when you're seeing that, boy, of all the jobs that you're making people have to reapply for. It seems like you should be able to figure out pretty quickly, hey, these are our great sales people, or these are great people
Yeah. Yeah.
in the store, and
Yeah.
these are probably people we should not have.
Yeah.
It just is not a good feeling. It's not a good look. But I guess they have their reasons. I would disagree with the reasons, as I think, like we've said, it just erodes employee engagement. Even more than they already. And Apple has been. I think the one thing that I will call out Apple on is positive, although some people may
Yeah.
not see it as positive. I mean, Apple has been very clear during the entire time of the pandemic that, look, we want everybody in the office. I mean, they've never wavered from
Yep.
that. They've
Yep.
always said, you got to be in, you got to be in. And so I admire that they've taken a stance and they haven't wavered from that stance. So from that standpoint, I think they've managed that very, very well. Now, obviously, people don't like that, and I know scores of people that work in Apple, and they're basically, gritting their teeth, and they're saying, "Oh my God, if I could leave, if I didn't have so much stock, I wouldn't be here. I don't like it." So I think most of the people that are there are working there, but they don't like being there, which
Yeah.
once again goes to our point. Engagement is low, but they've
Yeah.
been consistent on that message.
Yeah, and the worst thing that an organization can have, especially right now when the economy is somewhat, you know, on the edge. Are we going into a recession or not? And the worst thing you can have is employees that are, can't afford to leave because their lifestyle has been kind of built around, you know, Google stock or Apple stock or Facebook stock. Uh, you know, they don't want to be there. They're we used to call it vesting in your seat. Because you're not really doing anything except vesting every month, and you're not engaged and you're not being productive. That's just a bad situation for organizations, and you're going to have a lot of it because folks that are heavily invested in their company stock, stock and RSU program, like like Amazon, like Apple, like Google, or Meta. Folks cannot afford to leave unless they're forced, or it gets so bad that you're willing to leave things on the table. and right now we're in the middle of helping somebody through a transition who who left Amazon and left a bunch of money on the table because the culture was just so bad and toxic that they couldn't stay. Uh, so yeah, there's a lot of challenges out there, and I think organizations need to really think about their messaging, how they're treating people, and because they could have a lot of unengaged, unproductive people just kind of sitting around in the office.
Can I rest invest in this job? Oh no, I can't because I don't have stock. So all right,
Exactly,
yeah, that's not happening for
exactly.
me.
Yeah, and it really interesting, and in some of the prior roles that I've had doing acquisitions, we'd always okay, who's resting investing until they meet their earnout, from their deal, 12-month earnout, or when does that next chunk of cash pay out, and then the day after they get it in the bank, they're gone. So you're gonna have a lot of folks, sitting in those similar situations.
Yeah, the vast majority of us who are not in that situation, we're not particularly. We're not going to cry about them as we go to sleep tonight.
Yeah, exactly,
I'm
exactly.
going to cross them off put them on my do not worry list.
So true, so true.
But yeah, so I mean, that's sort of our hot takes on what's going on right now. I see in terms of all of these things just break down employee engagement, and we got to talk a little bit about what we can do. We have some great tools for employee engagement. We're partnered with Org Vitals, which does a great assessment on where employee engagement is right now. We love Org Vitals, and we'd love to be able to come into your organization and use that tool. We have our mentoring sessions that we're doing, and that's another great way of building employee engagement. And also, we have a lot of solutions and a lot of work and interventions that we've done with organizations on improving employee engagement and improving overall culture. So we're available to do that work, and we'd love to help you out. So Ray,
Yeah,
your email
excellent.
is
Yeah, so it's Rey, REY, at thrivehrconsulting.com. Love to
and
hear from you.
yeah, my email is jason at thrivehrconsulting.com. If you're interested in joining our Slack channel where we can talk about all things HR, and we can also discuss employee engagement and give you some of our thoughts around that, our Slack channel, I can add you to that, or our team can add you to that. And all you have to do is send an email to thrive at Thrive HR Consulting, and you'll be on our Slack channel. So, all right, anything else we need to tell our
Nope.
friends out there?
No, only thing is we're looking forward to going to California to the California HR 23 conference in May. So if you're going to be, in Long Beach, please, let us know. We'd love to buy you a cup of coffee.
Dang, if I had known that you were going to say going to California and leveraged a Led Zeppelin song, I would have played us out on Led Zeppelin. I didn't know that, but
There you
maybe
go. There you go. Next
before the
time.
conference you'll have to say it again, and we can
There you go.
play ourselves out to Zepp.
Sounds great.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Take
Thanks,
care,
everybody.
everybody.
Have a great rest of your week, and we're
All right.
always available to talk. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks again for joining us. Please remember to search Thrive HR Consulting on social media and wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, follow, and share to make that connection. To get an invite to our Slack channel, just comment or drop us an email at thrivehrconsulting.com. See you next time.
All